Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the program. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Knew you'd hang around for us to have a conversation with you about the 5 things that trip up new gardeners, and sometimes all of us. We all have problems with things in the garden that causes problems, but a lot of new gardeners face difficulty when it comes to gardening because they have fears and uncertainties about the procedure. And we've been guilty of several things on this list, and the first one is time. Will I have enough time? Do I have enough time? I don't have enough time in order to do this. Well, gardening is, for many people, is a hobby, a weekend hobby, a weekend activity, and you're trying to grow some stuff, but it's just like any activity, just like any hobby, there's time invested, whether you're car collecting, golfing, you go to the bar for fun, whatever it may be, there's time invested in it.
Also going to be some cost, too.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and that's something to keep in mind is that you can garden for cheap, and you can do it on the weekends or an hour every other day after work or whatever, but it does take some time, and it does take some consistent time and some patience. And that's the biggest thing is people think, okay, this is my first year gardening, I'm going to grow this, this, and this, and this. Okay, I planted my seeds. I'm good. Now this stuff should just grow, right? Like that's what my neighbor does, right? But your neighbor might have 15 years of gardening experience versus you in your first year. And that's the thing about gardening is that it's not something that happens instantaneously. And you're not going to learn it your first year.
Well, and that's the thing. And to go along with that, people, with anything in life, you've got to put some effort for it. Mm-hmm. You're not going to throw the seeds in the ground. You're not going to buy a fixer-up car and then expect you to be able to just go ahead and set it in the garage and it fixes itself automatically. It doesn't work that way when it comes to anything in life.
Right, for sure. So another problem is I don't have much space or any ground. So there's a few different scenarios there that you can take care of that with. One is containers, the straw bale gardening. If you use the straw bale gardening method, make sure you're following the actual method and not some random blog post you read online. You want to get the book, whether it be you purchase it or through your library. There's community gardens, indoor gardening under the Happy Leaf LED grow light. Those are some really good options.
Yes, and then other things about a new gardener or some gardeners of many years is the fear of not knowing everything and the killing of a certain number of plants.
Right, like, join the club, basically. Any gardener, from us to Joe Lampall to P. Allen Smith, to anybody, your local university extension office, no one knows everything, and we're all learning every plant and every season. So do we kill plants? We absolutely kill plants. Do we try to kill plants? No, but it just happens. It's part of the world of gardening. You're not going to learn everything your first year again, or your 20th year. Maybe my plant does not look good. What is wrong with it? First thing to ask yourself is, are you watering too much, not enough? Then that's typically a common problem, is inconsistent watering. That is the answer. Consistent watering is the answer to a lot of gardening problems.
Right. If we ask, do you water too much or not enough, and the answer is yes, then stop doing that. Figure out which one you're not doing or doing too much of,
or you say, I'm supposed to water them.
Yeah, that's the other thing. People get hung up, and even some hobby weekend warriors get hung up on, what does partial shade loving plants mean, and is it okay to plant those in full sun?
Well, no. Partial shade loving plants, they want to have partial shade. They need a little bit of shade to grow the best. full sun might cause them to bolt or want to create seeds.
In the right conditions,
right.
they want full sun, but
Right.
based on the...
But we're talking about partial shade loving plants.
Right.
Okay, so partial shade living plants want shade. If they have too hot or too much sun, they're not going to do well. They're going to look wilty. They're going to be sad. That's why you want to make sure that you follow whatever that plant says.
Partial shade tolerable plants in some instances. There's partial shade loving plants and then partial shade tolerable plants, which means that they will tolerate some partial shade but would prefer full sun if at all possible. And we plant some of these cooler weather crops in that partial shade conditions because they are daylight sensitive and they are heat sensitive as well. So we want to figure out what we have going on there. Now, plants like beets, beans, cabbage, leeks, herbs, carrots, chard, kale, all can be grown in partial shade. However, those plants will not produce to the magnitude that they would if they were in full sun. Leaf lettuce, spinach, plants of that nature, you want to plant in somewhat partial shade because then you're tricking the plant to thinking the day length is not as long and you're keeping it a little cooler as well when it comes to that planting in partial shade and full sun.
Right. So we're going to talk about growing zones.
This gets a lot of people hung up on what it means and all of that.
So the USDA hardiness zone map, or some people call it the growing zone map, is a guide to help you know what plants and what plants when your last average frost date is, and even in the fall when your first average frost date is. And this will give you an idea when to start seeds, when to plant certain crops. So it's all based off of that. So for example, ours is mid-April to early May, and that doesn't mean that in mid-April we can go and put our tomatoes in the ground. That's not correct. That means that when we decide to start seeds, we're going to back off from that date. So say it's April 15th or something.
For our zone. Now, it's different for everybody.
For ours, but I'm saying
for everybody.
Yours might be March 15th. Yours might be June 15th, what have you. So we back off from that date. So if our seeds are going to take 4 weeks to start before we want to put them in the ground, we're going to back off 4 weeks from that date, for example, and then we base that off of when we're going to put them in the ground. So these are things that you can look up online. You can Google search USDA hardiness zone map, put your zip code and your favorite search engine, and you will find that information. So, and then another question is how do I know what information that I can trust and follow? And this is very important. We are in a world of information on the internet.
Whether it's right or wrong, it's clicks and likes and subscribes.
Yeah, for sure. There is a lot of clickbait out there, and you're gonna come across a feed that says this, if you do this, or just a video or something, if you poke holes in a banana and plant it, you're gonna grow a banana tree. And that's not always true.
If there's 1 million views for that video, and that's the only video that person has up, and there's no information about that YouTube channel, common sense tells you it's clickbait.
Right, pretty much. So the biggest thing is there's a lot of trusted resources, but one, university extensions, those are proven. Anything that is put out by a master gardener, proven. Anything that is put out by... anything we recommend.
An author. Somebody wrote a book because a publisher, or they have a reputation they uphold. If there's YouTube channels such as ours, and there's many other great YouTube channels that have hundreds and thousands of videos, cross-reference. If you see us tell you one thing, go see if somebody else has told you the same thing, and then see if it's print somewhere, and then you can kind of go, okay, there's 4 or 5 sources that tell me to do X, Y, Z. Probably it's a pretty good recommendation to do X, Y, and Z for that particular situation.
Gardening magazines as well. That's good information. Home magazines, what have you. So if it's published, if it's something that somebody had to put work into to contact a publisher and get approved, it's going to be good.
Well, that's some of the things that hang up a new gardener, and sometimes an everyday type of gardener.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.